Hello. It's the harmonizing for me. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Books and Betches. Not to be confused with Books and... Betches. I'm Kristen, and with me I have...
And Maria.
Oh, we got a monster. A little monster.
Fur was Boostergram, now it's a monster.
Boostergram in Erica. I guess Halloween is around the corner by the time
so
this comes out.
excited.
Yeah. So this is a book podcast. We are Triple S. We swear, we spoil, and we talk about sex. We're going to spoil this book. I'm sorry. And that book is A Certain Hunger by...
Chelsea G. Summers.
This was recommended by a I want to say follower. I don't know if they're a huge fan of the podcast. I forget.
What?
It might have been on the Instagram.
It was Instagram. That's
fair.
hard.
Do we have people on our Instagram who are like, I fucking hate your podcast, but I love your Instagram?
Well, there's a lot of
Probably.
people that just watch our reels.
People probably don't know that we are a podcast.
That's fair. Totally.
Or don't listen to podcasts.
That's also fair. Or can hate us. That's fair too. I'm just asking.
If I fall asleep, I'm just like...
Maria, wake up. Only you two have read
wake
this.
up! I don't like this.
We literally need you.
Maria, wake up!
Here's the deal. I haven't read this book.
I did.
Shocking.
Surprise.
I've been
finished it,
so
yes.
good with
I finished
reading
it Friday.
books.
I finished
had
it
a feeling,
this morning.
I had a feeling you wouldn't like this book.
So it worked out. I read 4 pages, and you were right. I didn't like this book.
But
the way
did you think
it's-
I wasn't going to like it?
No, I thought you were fine. I figured... I knew she wouldn't like it.
Why?
Because the way it was written.
It was strangely written. I was debating when I was driving over here how I want to describe it, because like part of my gut instinct is to say masterfully written, because it was very unique in how the story was told, how it jumped. But then I was like, well, in some cases I didn't really like love how it did it,
Yeah.
but it kept its how it like it was not like sometimes it did it like this, sometimes it did it like this. It was always consistent in the way that it was strangely told.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
What is the genre of this book?
It was memoir.
I feel like that
style.
shouldn't be a really hard question to answer.
I think it's like
So I'm really
Well,
intrigued.
it's because it's not our typical book that we read.
Oh, really?
No.
It's different? Maybe I would have liked it then.
It's categorized as a horror, contemporary, feminism,
Oh.
women's adult fiction.
What? Does that feel right?
Sorry, I'm reading something on Wikipedia. Summers began writing the novel in 2011, spurred by heartbreak as well as a desire to move away from first-person nonfiction she had previously been writing. It ultimately took her 6 years to finish the book. A Certain Hunger was first published as an audiobook on Amazon Audible Originals label in the fall of 2019. The audiobook had a bunch of extra passages, like extra like sentences and descriptors that the ebook didn't, or it would change from the ebook drastically into a different sentence structure.
Weird.
But essentially, it's a book. It's fiction, but it's written as if it's a memoir from a character who's a serial killer.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. That's different.
Yeah.
That is different. I don't know. I'm just going to say I don't know anything about this book other than the fact that the main character is like a restaurant reviewer of
a
some
food
sort.
critic.
Okay, so that's all I know. I am excited to learn. I'm going to tell you how confusing it is for me. So that means that for our readers, it'll be very confusing as well. Because I guarantee a lot of people probably didn't read this book. Because I don't think this is a super popular one.
I don't think it's that well known.
Okay, so
I don't know.
So
It's on the shorter side, so if you ever wanted to read a shorter, more like...
It's free on Scribd too.
Yeah,
so
the
if you
ebook's
have
free on
yes,
Scribd.
it's available on Scribd.
It has 9,000 ratings.
Okay, that's pretty good.
It's like not known.
Okay, but I just want to say, like, try to be as, descriptive as you can.
Yeah.
Keep me here. That's all. It's a short book. We can do this.
Tina, try to be.
If you're not on our YouTube channel, you'll want to see this. There's a lot going on.
So, Dorothy, right? Dorothy, what's her last name?
Wait,
Daniels.
are we going to do the 60?
Yeah.
Maria's gonna do it.
I guess I'm doing it.
Maria's doing it. That look.
I just threw myself into the fire.
All right. So
Makes sense.
Let's
Okay.
do the 60 seconds so we can start talking about this book. If you're new to this podcast, we do this thing where we attempt to explain the entire plot summary of a book in 60 seconds or less, a very short amount of time to explain an entire book. And this week, Maria's going to do A Certain Hunger, written by Chelsea
It's
Summers. Thank you.
I like the title.
All right, here we go, Maria. In 3, 2, 1, go.
A certain hunger is following Dorothy Daniels, who is an illustrious, I guess is the right word, food critic. She's lived her life writing about food. She's loved food. Her mother was this like very good cook, so the life she's lived. She's a very promiscuous woman. She likes sexuality. She loves to have sex with men. And it turns into her having always a slew of different lovers throughout time. She goes to Italy. She lives in New York. Like, she's worked through so many magazines as a food writer. And she's basically self-described as a psychopath. She doesn't have empathy for anybody, and she's always been this way. Lo and behold, she now becomes a serial killer, starts killing some of the men that she has relationships with, and it then escalates to her eating them as well.
Oh.
So now we have cannibalism.
15 seconds.
And
Certain
the
hunger.
whole book is from her perspective, looking in the past, because she's actually in jail for killing these men. And
3, 2,
that's it. Just her life story.
1.
And like,
Okay, not what I was expecting at all.
she's in the
jail that
jail
we passed
that's
by.
in my town.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean,
It's like-
not in real life.
No, but she
Well,
she
she's a
mentions
fictional
it.
character.
Yeah. Okay.
So no, she's not actually in the fucking jail.
But it's the jail that is near Erica's house.
Oh.
It's not near my house, but it's in my town.
Really? Have you
Yeah.
ever gone and
I've
checked
passed
it
by
out?
it.
I've passed by it.
I pass by it every time I go to Erica's house.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
I always find it weird. I'm like, this is a random
Is it
It's
big?
like-
prison.
It's probably a really. It's where Martha Stewart went.
No way.
Yeah.
Is that where she went?
Seriously?
To jail? Interesting.
Wow.
It's like the luxury jail,
What's it called?
Bedford
Bedford
Hills.
Hills.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's I kind of read the first couple pages. It is from her point of view.
Yep, and
Her
the
perspective.
thing about this, I don't think this is the right term for this writing, but it's like a stream of consciousness,
Okay.
right? So it's like she just rambles.
Just unloads. Yeah.
I think that's what I didn't like.
rambles and
I
rambles.
had to skim
and,
some of it.
and you don't know
I
what
did
you're
that.
meant to retain, which is why it's
Yeah.
difficult to read it.
Yeah.
And that's why I was reading it physically and listening to it, because reading it physically
You
was
can skim it.
tiresome.
Uh-huh.
It was so draining to like hear her just spew out shit, and you're like, what do I have to like
See,
retain?
like I find it easier to read that because I can skim it and I
Yeah.
can go back.
But then, like
easier.
she said, though, you don't know what you're meant to retain.
I know, but if I skim, I jump right, and then I'm like, oh shit, I probably should have read the paragraph
that's double
before.
work. You have to go back
That's
and
what
read
I'm
it again.
saying. That's a lot of fucking work.
But then it's hard to do that in an audiobook.
What I thought Erica
hard to go
wouldn't
back.
like about this book. So I figured you didn't like it because of the way it was written.
yeah.
I figured Erica wouldn't like it because of the constant name dropping of topical things. Whether
I don't
it's
like that either.
restaurants
Yeah.
or prominent figures in society. Like, she was name dropping people I had never heard of. And this book is an SAT kid's dream.
Oh no.
It's
A lot of good words
tons of big words that I had never heard. It was the first
in
time.
ways that you would never use them.
Yes.
Even if they were
Yes.
words you recognize, they were.
And you're like, what is the context for this? So I'd have to go and I this is the first time I've ever done this so many times, is like looking up the words on the ebook.
Oh, that is annoying.
being like, what does
I
that
love that.
mean?
You do?
I thought the more you read it, the better it got.
Yeah.
Right? In the beginning, I'm like, okay, figure out your life.
Yeah.
But then when I realized, okay, no, this is her character. This is who she's meant to be. I'm not meant to like her.
Yeah.
Let's just move on. And it got better towards the end. Like 3/4 of the way, I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I think I'm,
So one of
I'm
my-
on the flow of
One of
this.
my favorite things about this book was, so she was a food critic, right?
Yeah.
And that was kind of like her whole gimmick with it, tied into like being a cannibal too.
Mhm.
And like she cooked, and her mom was a cook, and like all this stuff, right? And where Kingdom of the Wicked was just talking about food and was just
Yeah.
like, oh, the mozzarella. Like she
the bullshit.
talked about food in
Yes.
a professional,
Yes.
clinical way.
In
So
a
it was like you were
great way.
actually reading a food critic's
Yes.
point
Yes.
of view.
And I
it
think
was
that was-
so
yeah.
I love that.
professionally done.
I was gonna mention that was my favorite part too.
I don't know. I don't know anything about Chelsea Summers. I don't know anything, but bitch put in the fucking research.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, no, really.
I
Like, and
appreciate
also
that.
just because I love this in food books specifically. Like, if you tell me it's a book that our character's gonna love food, like With the Fire on High by Elizabeth
Yep.
Acevedo,
Mm.
the way that one's written with food
Mhm.
was like, I loved it because I was like, oh, I can feel it, I
Yeah.
can taste it, I
Yep.
can like sense everything you're saying.
Food is tough in books.
It's
too.
so
It is.
hard
Yeah.
to write in books to make
Yeah.
me feel like I'm hungry now.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
this author and this character talked about food in a way that was like clinical but also reverent. Like she puts
y'all did
food,
read some big words in this book.
she puts food on a different level.
Yeah,
right, so you can see that she doesn't respect people, but she respects food.
I love that. So I'm curious how we got from this is a food critic who's writing about being a food critic to now I'm a fucking serial killer. So walk me
from
through.
the get-go she's already said like I've murdered people. You're reading this
you're
because
reading
I've
this-
murdered people.
You're reading this from here, like, and she basically I think within the first chapter she's like, "Yep, I was diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder.
I'm a psychopath.
which
I've
is
killed 4 men.
Wow.
I'm in jail.
I love sex.
I fucked up here, and here, and this is why I'm in
So
jail."
you know right away she's
From
in
the
jail.
get-go.
Oh,
Yep, she's in
okay,
jail.
okay. I didn't
It's
realize
not a
that.
chronological story.
Okay, so there's
Which
no
I
like
love.
twists and like
No.
Okay.
Their one twist was there, which was, so she has a friend.
Okay.
She had met her in college, and they hated each other in college in freshman year. They were roommates. Past the years, they rekindle, they sort of like re-meet in the future. Now her friend becomes like a well-renowned artist, like super famous.
She's agoraphobe, so
She doesn't leave her house,
Oh.
but they become best friends for years. And what I love about this book also is that we have a character who's like in her 50s.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
She's
like
an
a-
older character. She's
and
not just a
all of her
20-year-old.
murders, all of her murders are in her 40s.
Yeah, they're all in her
That's
40s.
cool.
So I love that we have an older female.
Yeah.
So she had killed one, which was her final murder. She took him to Fire Island, it was,
yeah.
and into a random house.
Okay.
They had sex, had a good meal, and then she just kills him with an ice pick.
No. She was actively fucking him and took the ice pick to
And
his neck.
to his
Okay,
neck.
Gone
Yeah.
Girl.
Very
How
Gone
do
Girl.
you have sex? How do you have somebody inside of you and
Gone
kill
Girl.
them at the same
Neil
time?
Patrick Harris. Slit
Poor
his throat
Neil.
right on
That
top of her.
is insane.
And then the blood poured on top of her. Dude, it's fucking crazy.
Well, I hope you just didn't spoil Gone Girl for everybody.
It's been a while, so
Anyway.
go fucking
Yeah,
watch
that's
it.
not a spoil.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she like stabs with an ice pick, and then she burns the house down.
Oh, wow.
But I guess she
left a
the
receipt.
dumbest shit. She threw out a receipt in a trash can
Dumb
outside.
No, she threw out a receipt.
Oh,
in a,
inside in a simple human trash can.
yeah.
I love those trash
I
cans.
know, I know.
I
And
bought
for
into.
that alone, that's an ad for Simple Human. It
Yeah.
will withstand fire.
They wrote Simple Human.
She
Yeah.
wrote Simple Human, the brand.
See, this dates this book, though.
It
a
does
lot.
it?
I guess. But
Yeah, because like Simple Human, do we really think in 100 years like that's going to be relevant to somebody?
No, but again, this is the thing. It dates it because she mentions a lot of.
I mean,
different
I think
things.
it's cool.
But
in the
she also talks
moment.
about the 90s. Like she
Okay,
lived
cool.
through the 90s. She was
Yeah,
writing for
it was-
magazines.
I think I agree with that, like, because of some of the references, but she referenced stuff that was in the 1800s.
Yeah, she did
Like,
a lot of referencing.
it was
Yeah.
a lot of like
That is
like
cool.
she talked about female serial
Female
killers
killers. Yep.
over the years, why they did what they did, XYZ, like,
Yep.
and she it was what I respect so much about this book is how much research was done.
That's cool.
The
Was
information was
clearly,
backed up.
Like the
Yeah.
the information was I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming correct, but like it was not just like, oh, here's a little sprinkle.
It wasn't a sprinkle of like I got it on Wikipedia that one day.
Well,
Yeah,
even
yeah.
to add in that garbage thing, like to know, like, okay, this garbage can withstand heat. This is like, you know what I mean?
so
like,
they found her receipt.
Yeah.
Right, and then the
It
cop
was from her butcher, like
from her specific butcher.
Okay.
She always go to the same butcher.
Yep.
So the cop had come to question her. She has never been caught before. She's killed men and gotten through. But this one receipt linked to her to be in
Oh.
that area, even though she
Oh.
had an alibi, quote unquote.
Okay.
So the cop was like, "Who's your butcher?" And she said it off the bat like it was nothing, but it was on that receipt. So
oh.
push forward, she starts feeling weird. She's like, "They know I'm gonna
which
get caught."
makes sense. Like that's something that I normally would be like, how do you know your butcher? Like, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
she's
Because
such a
she's
food
so-
person.
yes.
Yeah.
It
It
makes
links her.
sense
Yeah.
for her to be like that.
Yes, to have a
100%.
It
specific
all
butcher.
like in ways that other books don't make sense.
Yep.
All these details made sense
Yeah.
for this
Yeah.
book.
I
So
love
she
that.
goes to see her friend Emma,
Mhm.
and they get drunk together, and she tells Emma
Oh.
all of her kills,
Oh.
but the next day doesn't remember if she did. She's
Got
like,
drunk.
But Emma can't go
she's
outside.
like,
oh wait, she could go.
but she's like, oh, I don't know if I did tell her or if it
Ooh.
was in my head. Like we were drinking, but I didn't
Yeah.
tell her, did I? But then she finally like she spirals in a way of like I must have told her.
which is probably what would happen.
And then
yeah.
she gets calls from, she's on the call with Emma at one point, and she feels like she hears a clicking sound. So she's getting herself paranoid, thinking that Emma has betrayed her to the cops. Goes to Emma's house to kill her to be like, you can't tell them what I told you.
Oh my God.
But Emma had, because she's agoraphobic and always scared, has an alarm system. And when she had triggered the alarm by accident coming into the house, the cops show up, catch her as he's trying to kill Emma. That's how she's truly caught.
Wow.
Because she's saying it to her, like her bed,
Yeah.
which is a bunch of pillows. She thought it was Emma in bed, it was a bunch of pillows. And she's like, I know you know what I told you. I know you know I told you about the fire island and the arson and this and that. And she goes to stab her with a meat cleaver, but she's never actually in bed. So then the cops come, take her, and that's how the trial begins.
Wow.
So Emma is her best friend, but Emma basically like betrayed her.
Yeah.
The twist at the end is that Emma doesn't, or Dorothy doesn't know if Emma truly was told everything.
Yeah.
Or if that was the mystery. Did I tell Emma everything or not? Emma had written her a letter at one point being like, this is I think a year maybe later after she's already in jail. She's like, you told me everything, but I'll keep your secret.
Oh, no, I would never tell.
I would never tell. Love you forever, dolls. Because in the trial, she went to the to trial and she was like,
all of this is told out of order too. So like you
all
kind
out
of
of order.
So like you get the scene from there, and then she goes into this. I think she goes into Alex and her love for Alex.
Yep. Who triggered everything.
Wow.
Yeah. So then you come back to it and you kind of want to read the end of it because you're like, did Emma tell or not? Like I have no idea.
It's like a show.
And then at the end, she said, like, you know, she opens the letter and she realizes that Emma lied on the stand. Is just like, I have no idea. I have no idea.
Wow.
I have no idea. And then she still doesn't know. 100% whether or not she told Emma.
And then she gets the letter.
And the letter's like, I never told.
See, that's like a
you
TV
told
show.
Me.
Where you're going from scene to scene and you're like, wait, I want to know what happened there. And then you switch a scene.
So what I really liked, she goes through each kill and why she, like how the person
that's
is
what I want to know. Why
to.
is she a serial killer?
Why, like, right? So she has all these
psychopath.
I mean, she's a psychopath,
Oh,
but
yeah.
so she has all these guys that she's killed over the years. One guy she was fucking for like 30 years and killed.
Marco in Italy.
Yeah,
they had the longest like thing, and then he would always go through these motions of like, I don't want to keep cheating on my wife.
Oh yeah.
All right. And the thing she loves to do is she loves to dig dirt on whoever she's having relations with.
Okay.
So that in the end, she always has the upper hand.
Yeah.
So Marco's twist or backstory or like side secret was that he was married, a Jewish butcher, but he was on the side screwing her for so many years. So now she has that against him. Yep. And then Marco's like, I want to be with my wife. I'm not gonna keep cheating, yada yada. And at this point, she's like, I'm gonna kill him for this. Like, but I'm gonna give him a chance. Yep. If he she doesn't say this. It's just in her head. She's like, if he opens up to me and he does what I want, then he'll survive.
Oh my goodness.
But if he doesn't, it's his choice. If he doesn't,
I love that.
Then I'm killing him.
But she doesn't tell him that.
No. It's just his choices.
Yep.
And then he didn't do what she asked until the last minute. He was like, "Oh, I want to be with you right now." And they were in his butcher shop, and she's like, "Nah." Slice.
Wow.
Slices his neck open.
She puts his arms in like handcuffs, like
they're gonna
like
meat, as if they're gonna do like some sexy times.
She sucks him off and then slits his throat. After
he gets a last blowjob.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're gonna die,
it's more for her because she loves to have sex. That's her thing.
So pleasure, and then now you're dead.
Yeah, and so then what did she take from him? What body part did she take from him?
Oh, she keeps
his liver.
Oh yeah, 'cause she eats them.
No, the liver was the first.
The liver was Giovanni.
Tongue.
The fact that y'all are like, did she take the dick?
Well, she kept, and then she would take the whatever body part.
I think
she would bring it. She would bring it home and like
eat it.
Create a very intricate meal out of it.
Okay,
I wish I could open my script right now. I couldn't sign in on my laptop, but I had highlighted a piece because it was literally Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah.
It's like I had a Chianti
and
some fava beans, and I was like, you did it!
So it was literally like on par with that.
That's so wild. It's so hard to get into like a serial killer's mind and to like be able to write from that point of view. So you feel like
I don't know how you could write this book,
but you feel like
it just bounced around a lot. And I thought that was it was so well done in that way. Like initially when I first started, I was like, what is this? Like what am I supposed to retain? What am I supposed to be following?
It was hard to get into, but once you got there,
once you got it, you got it.
It was almost like addicting. It was almost addicting because you were kind of like, I don't know what this book did not have the traditional like storytelling
it didn't have
arcs
the same
or like anything like that. So
acts.
it made it really hard to really understand like where the book was going, why we were doing, where were we going with all this information.
Yep.
But you still wanted to know more about what she did.
And she still like, even though she took you through a path that was weird, right? She would go and she'll start talking about female serial killers and how women are looked at in society and why are they always considered to be the loving ones? Like, why can't we have violent women? Like,
True.
it was great
There was
conversation.
a lot of
that's
there was
where
a
the
lot of
feminism
great,
comes
but then
in.
but then you
monologues.
turn into like, how does this relate to our current storyline? And it would go into that path, and,
That's so
and you
cool.
would lead us back into where we were.
I love that.
Then so Alex was the what triggered her to kill. So this was
she-
like the one guy she said she actually loved.
She actually loved him. They were in college. They re-met again in the city at one point.
They fell in love for 3 years, and
She
asked
noticed
her,
how she changed. She was like, I'm doing things for someone. I'm not just like doing it to get my own means. I'm like,
Yeah.
I actually want to make someone else happy. Feelings? What?
Right.
And he asked her to marry him.
and she
On
said
top of-
no.
yeah, Empire State
Said
Island.
no?
She's like, no, because I do better alone,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't want to be different than who I am, and I am who I am, and I'm just gonna
But then she later said she might have regretted it.
yeah.
So did she
She
kill
said
him?
it. No.
Wow. The
She-
boy
he's
who
alive.
lived.
He's alive, and he's somewhere.
The boy
we don't
who
know.
lived, come to die.
So she kills. Who she killed first? Marco. Was Marco first? That's
I
the
don't
thing.
know.
I don't know who's first.
The
and who's
problem,
last.
the problem with all of this is no, it was the guy who she impaled with the car.
Jesus
Giovanni.
Christ.
Giovanni.
So
Was
Giovanni
it really
and
descriptive,
her.
these killings?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it went.
Yeah.
For Giovanni,
He was the liver.
he was the liver.
He was the liver.
She ran her
fucked.
car into him. I think it was a Fiat.
Yeah.
She ran him into a
Fiat, yeah.
Fiat, and he got impaled on like the guardrail.
Okay.
So she takes his liver,
Yep.
leaves. Right. The other guy
Lets the animals eat him.
yeah.
Damn.
And she's able to call, like, the cops call her and be like, you were the last to see him. Like, do you know what happened? She's like, oh, I can't believe it. Oh, my gosh. So she takes his liver. One of the guys she dates, I can't remember his name now, she takes part of his butt cheek.
Oh,
Gil?
a lot of meat
Gil.
back there, yeah.
She kills him in the water. So she like, makes him,
No,
like, drown.
he's anaphylactic. It's a fig. She kills him with the fig.
She kills him with a
You
fig.
guys getting
But
your
then,
murders mixed
I know.
up.
Kills him with a fig, but then puts him in the water to make it seem like he drowned.
So the fish can eat him, yeah.
Jesus Christ. What the
Swimming
fuck?
with the fishes.
Oh my
Swimming
God.
with the fishes.
You want to hear?
It was honestly, like,
Yeah.
very graphic.
You want to hear something real embarrassing on my end? I thought that this book was about zombies.
The cover makes you think that.
So going into it in my mind, I was like, all right, when are we getting to the zombie part, right? I was thinking Claire Saint, what is that fucking show? Claire's Diet.
Oh, Santa Clara's
Santa Clara's
yeah.
Diet. I thought we were taking that route. And last night,
That makes sense.
but last night I started thinking about zombies and I had like a ton of zombie dreams. And what? All for naught. I should have been having serial killer dreams. It's fucked up.
Interesting. I think it's pretty interesting because I follow a woman whose son has antisocial personality disorders.
Yeah, that's tough.
15 years old.
That's tough.
And it's like that's the whole time I'm thinking about like this particular like scenario, which I'm also like, what happens if my son just randomly has it?
It could happen
like,
too.
It could happen to anybody.
Because people
right?
are always like, well, look at the parents, look how they're raised. I was like,
It's
no,
not.
sometimes it could just be.
That's
Could
what I
just
mean.
be
This
a
like
blip in the water.
Yeah.
This lady, like, she has a perfectly normal daughter, and the son has tried to kill the daughter and her multiple times.
Oh,
He's
man.
like in an institution, and he
sucks.
knows what's right and wrong. He just doesn't care.
Yeah.
And it's just like such a weird.
It's tough too
condition.
because what can you do? Like,
Well,
there's
that's what she said.
yeah.
She's like, once he hits 18, like, what do you do with this person? Because
exactly.
he's gonna kill somebody.
Yep.
And like, what am I
But
supposed
like,
to do
also
about
good
it?
on her for recognizing that and doing something about it. Because there are parents, like, you know, you look at like school shootings and stuff. I saw something recently of a woman who turned her son in and was like, "Hey, I saw something that my son was planning," and it's like that doesn't happen that often. Usually, there's like signs.
You want to ignore it,
and they get ignored. And it's like, I'm not a parent. I don't know what it's like to have a kid that, like, you know, all of a sudden is planning these things that are so like heinous. Like, I don't know how I would react, but it is wild to think that at any time, like, somebody.
she
could
said
just
she
have
started
that.
noticing at her at like 5 or something like that,
Wow.
and like it just,
Sad.
you know what I mean? It's the warning signs where you kill
Was
animals.
this
and,
character likable? Like,
like, no,
really?
she's from
That's
like a rich family.
She
like,
comes off as condescending and bitchy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't it amazing that you could, though, read a book where the main character is horrible and
Unlikable.
unlikable, but you could still enjoy the book and the story?
But I still like
That
moments
means it's
of,
well
of
written.
what she said. Like, there were,
Yeah.
I wish to show you my highlights, but there were moments where I was just like, yep,
yeah.
or I'd be like, what the fuck is this? Like, it's like I went through a lot of emotions with her.
To me, that's a really well written book and a really well written character.
It was, again, like there were parts that I skimmed, so like that's kind of one of my things. Like if I'm skimming pages, like like, you know what I mean? That's definitely a minus point.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like I just don't think I appreciated the nuance of it because this isn't really the genre I read.
Yeah.
I also was trying to read it fast because I waited till the end of the week to do it.
Yeah.
The 2 pages that I read, like the beginning, when she was talking about that wine for like so long, and I'm like, I started scrolling really fast to see when we would get just past that to get into something. I got into the 5th page. I was like, I'm done.
She would go hard into a topic where you're just like magazines, right? The magazine era before the internet. She'd be like, well, back in the 90s, it was all about this, that, and then she seemed
all
of it.
Wow. She knew a lot about the topics that she was going on tangents about,
That's
which
cool.
is like, you obviously did research here, and that, like, to me, where I think so many other books suck at doing research and like providing background
but
information.
now I want to see because Wikipedia mentioned that she was writing mostly nonfiction, so that makes sense now for why it was so well like written
so
in that
stream
sense.
of conscious. That does make a lot of sense to like step into that fiction world.
But like I said, like, you know, like a Kingdom of the Wicked, like terrible in comparison.
Yeah.
But I ended up giving this book a 3, and the only reason I gave this book a 3 is because I have a hard and fast rule that 4-star books for me are rereadable. I would probably not reread this book.
That's totally fair.
All other boxes checked.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't reread it.
That's fair. Maria, what did you give this book?
3.
A 3? Why?
I thought I didn't hate it, right? Towards the end, again, like I said, 75% is where I was sort of like into it. I was into
so it took a while to get into.
It took a while for me to get. I
would say like 50% for me, where I was like.
I also feel like
you're
you're appreciating it more now that you're out of it and that we're discussing it. That happens a lot.
2020.
Yeah.
So like looking back, and again, I really enjoyed the parts where she talked about food and the dishes. It's the cannibalistic part of it is not the funny thing. I guess it's just like. The way she talked about food, I respect that because I can't tell you how good a burger tastes. Like I'm not good at explaining that. But then she'd even like, so Marco, which is the Jewish butcher, she went into a whole tangent describing how it is that kosher butchering is done and why it's done the way it is compared to regular butchery that we deal with. And
that's a lot of research.
And it was hard to read. Like I think part of me highlighted that. I was like, I kind of want to like go vegetarian for a little while. And this is sort of how he felt with Tender is the Flesh.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that.
It had that same vibe.
Yeah.
Can I read you her bio on her page?
Yeah.
Recovering academic, ex-stripper, and woman of a certain age, Chelsea Summers lives in Manhattan and writes almost exclusively about sex. Her work has appeared in Hazlitt, The New Republic, Vice, Guardian, U.S., and various other media outlets that value smart writing about things that go bump in the night.
I agree. I wholeheartedly agree.
Was the sex explicit in this?
No. Yeah. I mean, yeah. But she didn't like.
It wasn't like a sex scene where you like where
it wasn't like hot.
Yeah, it wasn't like an erotica thing. It'd be like she'd be explicit about it, but we wouldn't.
It was explicit.
It wasn't meant to be romantic.
Right. Okay. Interesting.
It was clinical, but again, juxtaposed to Verity, where it sounded like Colleen Hoover's never even fucking been to New York.
Yeah.
This gave me Manhattan. Like, she to me sounded like a fucking New Yorker.
Upper East Side, like
cool.
rich bitch kind of thing. Also, her writing about sex, right? She would use terminology that was so clinical.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
It was cold. The writing was cold.
It was
Which is like what a serial killer, how a serial killer would write.
But like she would mention
Wow.
be words for like, let's say a pubic area, right? Straight up SAT word. I would not even know. So I knew in the context of reading the sentence, that she's talking about this, but I was like, the fuck does that word mean?
Yeah.
So like I highlighted it, I'm like, oh,
Learned something new today.
Now I know what that is.
I love that. That's really interesting.
So again, hindsight 2020.
I also love that she was an older woman.
Yes.
Who would you recommend this book to? Like somebody looking for something different? Like who would you recommend this kind of book to?
So one thing I do want to say about this, I would
cool.
say feminists.
Ignore her.
No,
Feminist, okay.
Feminism in general, and I think a part of this is like I saw a comment the other day that was like about Drew Afualo on TikTok, and how like she punches up. And they were like, no, she punches down because she has so many followers. The reason why, like, punching
I don't know
up,
what punching means here.
punching up is like a way, like you can't oppress somebody that's above you,
Right.
type thing. So like, female serial killers are so few and far between that this book is refreshing because women don't usually kill men.
Yeah.
So this isn't like it's very few and far between serial killers on the female side. If this was written as a male killing a bunch of females,
Different.
it's like
different vibe.
totally different, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I think this book gets labeled with a feminist label
Point of
tag
view, yeah.
because it's like, yeah, you're still killing and eating people or whatever, but there is that connotation of like female empowerment and
Yes.
like
Yes.
who, like, you know what I mean? There are those vibes. So I think if you're looking for something that's a little weird, obviously like cannibalism, like murder, you have to kind of be into like those types of things.
Yeah.
But I do think that there
Stream
is
of
a
conscious,
very,
yeah.
very thick vibe of like this like feminism, feministic like
Female power. Yeah.
yeah, like just like
that.
older woman,
Yep.
like let's, you know what I mean, something different within media, like just it gives something that you don't usually get in books.
I love that. That was a really good
Yeah.
blurb there, Erica.
I don't know. I think I'd recommend it to that person too.
Yeah.
Someone who likes. someone who likes.
Very good blurb there.
Someone who likes
Sure.
smart reads.
Yeah.
Isn't looking for a fluffy type of fiction
It's not
story.
fluffy, yeah.
Like you're a critical thinker.
Okay. I love that too. Good
Not
stuff.
as good of a blurb as Erica's, but I did my
So
best.
if that's you,
It ain't me.
pick
I'm not
up this
smart.
book. It's not that big, right? It's not that.
It's
No,
300
it's like 300 pages.
all right. 300 pages. You could do
The
that.
the
I should do
narrator
that.
on the Audible original version is good.
Okay.
She does a good job.
Nice.
And yeah,
Again,
we'll-
I would have given this 4 stars for me, just not a rereadable.
Yeah. Do you think we'll ever read more of Chelsea Summers?
No.
Does she have other stuff?
she probably does articles more,
Yeah.
and I'm not an article reader.
All right. Well, this is a fun experiment.
I
think.
do read articles, but her articles are mostly about sex and
Okay.
like I think it's more like clinical, but
Yeah. Sounds like it might be. Cool.
Probably
all
probably
right.
not what I read.
Anything else we need to add before we wrap this up?
I
No.
don't think so.
Erica's thinking. If you could see her right now, she's got her thinking face on.
I really appreciated in this book like the use of wine
Okay.
too.
Yeah.
I thought of Erica too with the wine.
Yeah. I love a
Yeah.
good wine.
Like there was a couple of moments where she like mentioned a very specific wine, a specific year type thing, and you're just like, and it was like 1999 or something, right?
Yeah.
Like a Bordello 1999. And you're like, that's just so fucking good.
For those who don't
So
know, Erica
good.
went to Italy for like a semester or whatever, and she did all this wine shit. So
So
now she's
she's
a wine
a-
connoisseur.
I'm not a wine connoisseur.
She's
It's
practically
just-
a sommelier.
I know enough about how you taste wine.
Listen, I saw you get in an active argument with our coworker about this. So
Mike
You're
thinks
fucking
he's the
stupid.
same way. I would love to see you and Mike do like a wine tasting.
why is Mike good at everything?
Okay,
He's
I
all
took- I
about
took
it.
Tennis.
I took
wine.
I took 4 classes in Italy.
Yeah.
Actual Italian, the art of wine,
Yeah, that's
right? So
basically
it was
what Mike
basically
thinks
just
he was
drinking
everything.
4 different wines a day and just
I didn't have
fall-
that kind of schooling.
and doing the actual like tasting.
So when he went to Italy,
rubric.
he did a tasting class in Italy. So now I think
No,
he
no, no.
thinks he's.
I
hear you.
A
I do.
food
I
and
hear
wine
you.
tasting class,
I hear
which
you.
we would have 3 wines and
And
a
pair
meal.
them.
This is what happens
and you
when
would
people
pair
get an
them.
education. They think they're better than everybody else. So now anytime we drink wine, he's like doing the fucking thing, and I'm like, bro,
Swirling
drink
it.
your fucking wine.
And then a food class,
yeah,
which I
okay.
cooked.
You're such a foodie.
and we had wine in that class.
You're such a foodie.
I'm just saying that I learned the very basics of
okay.
pairing and wine and like actual
you're an
tasting.
expert.
No, I'm not an expert. I know more than the average person.
Love that. And on that note, go find this podcast on YouTube, and you'll get to see a lot of
Erica.
eye rolling. And no, we're just kidding. Just look up
You'll
books
see my
and
baby
Betches.
bump.
Aw, she's showing it.
Baby
She's showing it. You can only see it on our YouTube
Yeah, she
channel.
doesn't show it on her socials at all.
So go on over to Books and Betches.
It's a
on
personal
YouTube.
preference.
That's okay.
I respect it.
Also, follow us on Instagram, books_and_Betches, BETCHES. Click the link tree in our description. You'll find our Patreon and our Discord and a whole bunch of other things. So that's all fun to look at. And we'll see you next week, probably with
Divergent number 2.
Yeah, our movie episode next week. So get ready. Okay, we love you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye.